and good evening. My name is Madison Dyer, and I am a junior. I finished my health class a few weeks back, and our final project was to choose a certain health issue that we deemed important or relevant in our world today. I dove into this project only to realize I had a personal interest in psychology, particularly mood disorders like depression and anxiety. So please sit tight as I now talk to you for the next 10 minutes on the power of mentality. So immediately I wanted this talk to relate to us, Oak Knoll High School girls. As I'm growing up, I'm realizing how incredibly lucky I am to be going here and living in this area. In so many other schools, problems of bullying, harassment, drug abuse, and peer pressure are a common occurrence. And these stressors can lead to things like depression and anxiety. I've heard some of the speakers come in and talk about it, and I've read articles online, but I can't say that I've ever experienced these issues for myself. So what kind of issues do we face at Oak Knoll? Well, I've always noticed that anytime the teacher comes in and asks, "How are we feeling today, girls?" we always respond with things like stressed or like tired. I'm definitely one of the girls that is quick to respond with those words. I'm the kind of person that gets very stressed out and anxious before a test. But after the test is over, I feel a lot better. But for some other girls, the stress that comes from schoolwork and tests can have a more detrimental impact on them beyond test day. How do I know this? Well, I actually sent out an anonymous survey to all of the Oak Knoll juniors, and I was happy to get over 48 responses. I found out that 90% of the girls believe that the #1 leading cause of stress in their life is school. And 95% of the girls believe that this school stress has a negative impact on them, at least in some way. So clearly the struggle here is real. And my point is that yes, the academic intensity and rigor of high school is causing the negative stress and anxiety of students. And I get it, at a school like Oak Knoll, we're keeping up with the demands of the time. Colleges are getting very competitive, very selective. But when does it become too much? When is enough enough? Let's talk about the beautiful town of Palo Alto, California. Palo Alto I came across in my research because it is actually a perfect example of the negative effects of school stress. There was an author, Frank Bruni, who was visiting Palo Alto, and while he was at a local railroad, he wrote, "I spotted a man in a blaring orange vest, the kind that road crews and public safety workers wear. He wasn't carrying any equipment, he wasn't engaged in any obvious activity. He shuffled his feet staring into the distance." So what was this man doing? Frank Bruni was wondering, and naturally reading the article, so was I. What is his job? Well, it turns out this man's only job there was to look out for potential suicide attempts and stop them. From 2009 to 2010, 5 Palo Alto teenagers ended their lives by stepping in front of trains. And then in 2014, there were 3 more. These suicides have ignited the debate about the kinds of pressures felt by high school students in areas of overachievement. The students of Palo Alto are raised under the shadows of Stanford University. Stanford has a 4.8 acceptance rate, which shows its exclusivity and how stressful it is to try to get in there. Many of the students have accomplished parents who naturally expect the best of them. Therefore, they undergo many AP classes, obsessed with earning the perfect SAT and ACT scores, and of course, phenomenal GPAs. Does this sound a little familiar? Well, one teacher actually noticed that the number of AP classes that a student felt compelled to take and the number of hospitalizations for depression go hand in hand. Scary. So originally I was confused how relevant or real this issue of depression and suicide really was. But after reading some statistics, that really cleared that up for me. It turns out that 35,000 people die from suicide each year, which averages to about 121 suicides each day. Suicide is the 3rd leading cause of death for teens ages 15 to 24. Teens are the #1 age group suffering from depression and hurting themselves because of it. 3 million teens from ages 12 to 17, which is like us, are suffering from depression and have had at least one major depressive episode. And as for anxiety, 20% of boys and 30% of girls have an anxiety disorder, totaling 6.3 million teens. But sadly, only 20% of the teens with a diagnosable disorder get treated. So after reading these statistics, I was thinking, wow, this is a real problem in the world. I was surprised I didn't know more about it before my own research. Surprised we don't talk about it more. I was still curious, how relevant is this issue at a school like Oak Knoll? So referring back to that anonymous survey I took, I found some pretty shocking results. Out of the juniors that took the survey, they rated their average stress every day to day to be about a 7. I also asked them about their stress level before a test, which averaged to be about an 8.5. 54% of the girls have admitted to having felt both anxiety and depression. 35% only anxiety, and 11% only depression. Only 2 girls skipped this question, saying neither. And finally, some of the girls have considered suicide. I also asked them about some of the things that happen to them when they have stress, which included answers like removing themselves from the situation or lashing out at others, getting acne, it ruins their mood, they're dreading going to school for fear of having stress, and what was most sad to me was ceasing to participate in after-school activities. I also asked them about some of their methods for dealing with stress, which included things like crying, sleeping, taking a walk, hanging out with friends, venting, removing themselves from the situation, taking a shower, or finally, ignoring it, pushing it away, which is exactly what won't help. Why is it that everyone is willing to talk about a broken arm, a twisted ankle, a torn ACL, or even a disease like cancer, but nobody is willing to talk about mental illness? Why is it so stigmatized in our society? I'm asking you all right now, wouldn't you feel uncomfortable openly talking about your mental illness if you had one? And now think, for the people that really do, it probably makes them feel even more isolated, more alone, like they can't talk about it. So they try to ignore it and push it away. Some parents actually feel like maybe asking their kids about suicide or self-harm will put ideas in their head. But I've found that the opposite is true. Initiating that conversation and allowing them to express themselves is very therapeutic and can help so much. That's why some people even believe that schools should be asking about their students' mental health. They check their eyes, their hearing, their backs for scoliosis, so why not also check on their mental health? Another common misconception about depression is what's going inside the people's head, especially those that take their life. Because people don't really want to die. An example of this is an inspiring man named Kevin Haines. Kevin Haines was one of the 2,000 people who have jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge, but he was in that 1% of those that were lucky enough to survive the fall. Kevin Haines said that the moment he let go of those bars and released himself into free fall, he felt instant regret. And he can remember on his way down thinking, nobody's going to know that I didn't want to die. 19 of the other survivors have actually agreed with him and said similar things. Today, Kevin Haines still suffers from the same mental illness as he had before, but now he's much more open about it, and as you may have noticed, he even wrote a book about it, and therefore he is much more equipped to dealing with his illnesses. Continuing on this theme of bridges, I've actually found that the idea of suicide prevention and bridges to be an excellent example of the negative effects of school stress. The George Washington Bridge battle is an ongoing debate. 93 people have jumped off the bridge in the past 7 years. So, there is a proposal to build a fence-like barrier on the bridge so that it is impossible to jump. Sadly, this is not a huge priority to officials, and they're delaying the progress in this project. But the doctors and professionals in the mental health profession are outraged by the delays in this project because, like I said, people don't really want to die, and the doctors think that taking away access to suicide is crucial. I thought a powerful quote relating to this was, if a study came out that said 18 people were going to die on the bridge in the next year because of a mechanical issue, they'd shut it down and fix it. The solution to this issue is putting up a fence. So why aren't officials doing so? And I get it, there are alternate ways of suicide beyond bridges, but I do believe that having that fence would have saved at least 18 of those 93 people in their moment of darkness on the bridge. Wrapping up, I think what I'm trying to show is not only the mentality of people with mental illnesses like depression and anxiety, but the mentality of everybody in our society, because we can all help each other and change the general stigmatism. I believe our society has implanted in us the idea that mental illnesses are rare, sad, scary, mysterious, kind of weird, and definitely awkward to talk about. But as we've seen, this is not the case at all, because instead of being rare, they're actually really common, even at a place like Oak Knoll. But And school and college, yes, in our age group, that could be a major contributor to that, upon many other factors. But it's how we go about solving this issue that counts. How we might seek help from others when we need it. How we might look out more for others in their times of need. How we might contribute to creating a more welcoming environment for discussion on this topic. How will this knowledge change you tonight? Will it? Thank you.